I was running a bit late, so I entered the room, I guess, a little bit after everybody else. There was the only seats left were really sort of around the edge of the wall, so I just took up a wall seat. The assignments were just basically handed out. People were starting to look at their remarks.
I started setting up the first problem on the board, and almost immediately there was a whole lot of loud noises. I found myself on the floor here, and I probably realised that somebody was shooting when I spotted a bullet bounce off the carpet in front of my nose.
And I was in my office talking to a colleague at the time when we heard a couple of shots, which didn't actually recognise as gunshots at the start.
I was facing away, obviously Alan was behind me. I heard a sort of a loud bang. I don't know why I hit the ground, but I did.
Looked out in the corridor, saw the panic, came back into the office and rang the university security.
I climbed up from the floor, probably attracted by the noise of the shots. I was looking at Alan as he fired off his last 3 or 4 shots, and he appeared to have run out of ammunition and be starting to reload. So I went down to the back of the room to grab him.
I noticed Lee making his way up the right-hand side of the room. I sort of jumped up and sort of ran diagonal and basically to assist or to help out.
By the time I got to the back corner of the room, which is where he was, Alistair Boast, who'd been sitting in the far corner of the room next to the door, had caught up with me. Alan was sitting down trying to reload in the chair in the back corner here. All we did was grab his arms and held him still until some help arrived.
When I got to the room, Alan was pinned to the back corner of the room to his chair by Alistair and Lee, and there was I didn't really notice much, but there was obviously other people lying around the place, which I didn't pay much attention of at the time. So I could see that this was real.
There have been multiple shootings here at the university. I can confirm at this stage that 2 people are dead and 8 people have been wounded. 1 offender is in custody, and we are making preliminary inquiries into the circumstances surrounding the shooting.
Appearing in court today, Alan Xiang was accompanied by an interpreter, nodding during the translations, but saying nothing. His legal aid lawyer didn't apply for bail or enter a plea.
Very much a loner, and he wouldn't really engage with you in conversation particularly easily. And then there were obviously particular incidents where he'd been, perhaps his behaviour had been even more strange than that.
He always seemed to be on the outside of the class. There were, I guess, a couple of groups in the class. We didn't approach him to join the groups, and he didn't approach us to join the groups. So he was really just, for me, he was really just another student in the class. Somebody you didn't talk to, but you saw, somebody you knew, but maybe not by name, and just another face.
Alan was 10 years older than the rest of the students in the class. It wasn't unreasonable or surprising that he didn't socialise closely with them.
His spoken English was generally good, but his accent made it very difficult for people to understand him, and I think he grew impatient with that with other people. and other people sometimes would go a little bit impatient with him in terms of not understanding him and therefore just shrugging their shoulders or smiling politely. So the bad accent or the difficult accent combined with perhaps his impatience and other people's intolerance meant that led to quite significant social isolation. In the incidents that were sort of pieced together over the course of those last few months, there was a couple of things that he said where he'd said to somebody, they're trying to kill me or they hate me. So those were the indications that we did have, but to be honest, we didn't take any of those particularly seriously because they didn't seem to be any... Certainly we didn't think that was the case, of course, and we thought he was making rather flippant comments rather than genuinely, displaying some kind of manic behaviour.
He sent an email where he seemed to think that the other students were talking about him behind his back. My reply answered his specific question and sort of confirmed that no, as far as I was concerned, the other students weren't talking about him at all. And he seemed to be very happy with the answer, and I ignored the matter after that. It was an unusual email, but it's not the most unusual email I've ever had from a student.
Were people in the department generally surprised when they found out Alan was responsible for the shooting?
No. In fact, I can tell you, we had 2 staff overseas in the US who heard about the shooting through news of some sort and thought, I bet that was Alan. I think we had enough signs in Alan's behaviour in the months leading up to the shooting to indicate to us that we needed to get professional advice to know how to respond to what we were observing. And we didn't get professional advice because we didn't know how to interpret those things. I know of other people, obviously very different to Alan, but who've had difficulties with mental health, and what has been the trigger to them actually starting towards the phase of recovery has been a friend who presses and presses and presses and say, you need to do something about this, you need to go and get help. That's what seemed to be missing in Alan's case because of that lack of community.